This is the Team Objection podcast for January 9th, 2020, episode 420.
No, just no.
Michelle's not here for it, so I don't even care anymore.
I don't give a fuck.
It's a weed joke, everybody. Way to go.
And we're going to go have this podcast go for 69 minutes tonight, 420-69.
Please don't leave yet because it does get better. This is our best of 2019 show. These are my favorite shows of the year.
Yeah, the recaps.
Number one. I don't necessarily think they're our best shows, but they're the ones that I have a ton of fun doing. I look forward to it. I go see more movies and play more games in anticipation of this show. I just love it.
I'm with you because my favorites are the ones we do like every 100, but those aren't yearly, so I can't really count those. So, yeah, they're up there.
And I feel like these might be my favorite because Shaun, for the past couple of years at least, have said, you know what? That was a pretty good list.
No, it's not going to happen this year.
I know. It doesn't happen always.
Your list is going to suck this year. I can feel it.
The fact that it can happen at all really is a miracle, I think. So,
kind of why I'm just grasping at whatever I can right now. Just hoping.
Take hold. So, yes, our top fives of the year, as is tradition, I will be doing video games. Shaun will be doing movies. Dave will be doing television.
And I will be also doing games.
And I will also be doing movies.
I saw two movies this year, guys, I think.
It's kind of like IGN does like that staff reviews now. Like, so they have their main review and then they have staff reviews. That's pretty much what we're doing.
Didn't Old School Game Informer used to do that too? Like for their biggest reviews, like they had the main one that was like multiple pages, but then they'd also have a couple like a secondary or
pretty often.
Take.
Actually, they'll have a second one. So
I haven't read Game Informer in years, but
not since I worked for GameStop as I read Game Informer. And that was a long time ago.
A long time ago, indeed.
Indeed.
Who is going first?
I will go first because I have many lists. So I'm going to start with my movie list, and I'm going to go down from 5 to number
up.
1. So
Depends.
it's like build
Either way.
anticipation.
Sure.
My number 6, though, like honorable mention, is Toy Story 4 because it was delightful.
It was.
As I say, is that your most enjoyable movie of the year, maybe, or like your most feel good?
It's up there on the feel good. But the thing is, I really made this list on movies that I just enjoyed, and you know, a lot of times that is movies that make me feel good. I didn't make a list of like the critical best movies of the year.
Yeah, me neither. Which is for the best, especially at this. I mean, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
We have nonsense like the Oscars for the critically acclaimed movie. I don't give a shit about what the best movie was. What did you like?
Yeah.
Well, what made you happy?
And I'm pissed because fucking 1917, the movie, it's probably the best movie of the year. It probably is. I have no clue because I can't find it anywhere. It was supposed to come out on the 25th, and Harkins fucked me. They fucking fucked me because they didn't have it out. I was like, I'm willing to travel to go see this movie. Couldn't find it anywhere. Apparently, it opens on the 10th.
That it's going to be your best movie of 2020.
Yeah, but no, it's 2019 still, you know? Like, that's how the Oscars work. It's stupid. Anyways, Toy Story 4, really good. Delightful.
Before you start your list, I want to make sure Dave's camera catches up.
It is caught up. He's just really happy about Toy Story 4.
He's ecstatic for your number 6. He can't believe how good it is, and he knows the top 5 must be really high in integrity.
He's been having tech problems, and they're not getting any better.
Yeah, and I feel like he's going to freeze the recording, so we're just going to have to stop it and resume in a second when Dave is back. Okay. All right, Dave's back. We'll see how long that lasts. We'll start on Shaun's list proper now.
My goodness.
If Dave can survive it. We'll see. We'll see.
My goodness.
My goodness.
So my list, I went to Toy Story 4. That was the honorable mention. In earnest, it starts with Knives Out.
Okay.
Which was like the most hyped movie of the whole year. That's probably not true because it's the year where Star Wars and Endgame came out. Mm-hmm. But it was very largely hyped. And, you know, it was good. It didn't like change my life. Everybody was like, it's so subversive and changes the genre. I thought it was a pretty by the numbers like mystery, but like whodunit, just done really, really well.
I almost feel like at this point people were trying too hard to make Rian Johnson into this master artist of subversive media, and we need to slow down a little bit. Okay, we just need to slow down. I think he's a good director overall. Don't get me wrong, but it's like this is Rian Johnson's take on a mystery. It's the best thing I've ever seen. It's like, why?
Yeah.
It's so different. Is it?
It's not that different. The performances, though, are really, really good.
Well, the cast is really good.
Daniel Craig, Michael Shannon, Toni Collette, and more.
Chris Evans.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about him. He's great, too.
Yep. Also, Dave is dead again. There he's back. Okay, we're good.
It gets a little... it's borderline too much when you see like the resolution of the mystery, but Daniel Craig almost sort of, it's like a joke in itself that it's so complicated, and it's kind of hopeful, which I was surprising. Like a whodunit in 2019 about murder, like ends on like a really hopeful note.
Okay.
So like that's really nice. Dave is with us for the time being still, so we're gonna keep monitoring.
Probably
that.
stop your number 4 just because I don't want you to get interrupted in the middle of it because he's dead again.
Oh.
See him? The listeners can't see him. The
God
viewers can see him.
Damn it.
So hold on. We'll fix it maybe.
Number 4 is a movie that no one remembers. And I know this because I barely remembered. I was struggling to figure out what was that movie. I really liked it, but it made no money in the box office. And I looked online. It wasn't online anywhere. By an act of God, I remembered what it was. Dr. Sleep. Really good, really entertaining. The fact that it was a sequel to The Shining didn't really add all that much for me. I've never even seen the original. So all the throwbacks, I was like, okay, whatever. But it was just a cool, like, I love it when they have a horror movie and then it becomes like a battle between good and evil. I think that's really fun. And the cast was great. They have this young newcomer actress who's awesome. Like steals the show. She's this super powerful, shining person. And then Ian McGregor. I mean, at this point.
Can't go wrong.
What can he not do? And then, oh God, I'm not going to be able to think of her name. But the woman who plays Rose the Hat.
Rebecca Ferguson. I'm looking it up.
I didn't really like her that much. She was in Mission Impossible, where she's like, okay. She is so good in this movie. She also steals the show. So you have two people stealing the show, and then Ian McGregor's like the constant line running throughout. So just extremely good.
Came out November 8th. Felt like it was forgotten by the 15th.
Yeah, well, it didn't do well in the box office.
No, I'm not sure. Is that a branding thing? I saw some talk about how, like, since there's really no connection to The Shining whatsoever in that title, that maybe that could be part of it. I'm not saying they should have named it Shining 2 or anything, but, like...
I'm guilty of that. I mean, when you said Dr. Sleep, until you mentioned, The Shining, I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember this movie came out. I didn't see it, but I remember it coming out.
It wasn't even, like, I think if I don't hear of a movie hardly at all before it comes out, I still think it's a pretty good litmus test for the box office. Yeah. Like, I still consider myself pretty good. If it's music, I'm finding out I'm, like, way past, I'm, like, the old man when it comes to music these days. I have some theories, but I won't get into it now.
It was 2 weeks before Frozen 2.
Yeah.
So it had a little bit of time to shine before it got toppled by a behemoth, so I don't think that's it.
Yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of it. I was, like, riveted. It was cool. But anyways.
Yeah.
Endgame was my number 3. I think it's notable that in a year famous for, like, huge franchise endings, Endgame was the only one that stuck the landing. Star Wars did not stick the landing. Game of Thrones, Star Wars, because it's so huge, I think it got blasted even worse. It did better than Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was bad.
Game of Thrones broke their leg on the landing, I think.
They broke their leg. Yeah. Star Wars is kind of like, tripped a bit.
Maybe sprained an ankle a little bit, but that's the worst of it.
Yeah. The Game of Thrones went full Carrie Strug, but like not in a good way.
Kevin Ware.
Yeah, just broke and fell. But Endgame, like, so satisfying, and like there were flaws for sure.
Sure.
But you give some leeway for like the ambition. Like there's so many characters to juggle. Most of the plot lines felt pretty well done. I think people are complaining about the Hulk. All of his growth happened off screen. It's like, yeah, okay, but he's like one character of how many that they really nailed. And even the motif of time, people bitch about time travel. And I'm like, this whole series was built around heroes who are preoccupied with the past, either like literally or figuratively. So time travel really works as a motif for that. It was awesome.
They didn't do it perfectly. There's a few different little issues with it that you can bring up, but overall it's a satisfying conclusion to a 21 movie arc. And more importantly, you see all these little nods to different things that show they had a long-term vision and executed it.
Yeah.
I feel like we talked about this type of thing last week. I might be mistaken. I don't know.
Essentially, yeah. Like, think about like what's the coolest moment in the movie? You can make a case for a few things, but I think it's Cap with the hammer. Where does that run back to? A movie from like a decade ago is paid off in that scene.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Everybody loved it. Cool. Yeah, it's a very satisfying movie. I think we all gave it very nice scores. It's not outstanding. It's not perfect, but I sure enjoyed the hell out of it, all 3 hours of it.
I would still say it's in my top 5 Marvel movies. So, like,
I think so. I think I like it more than Infinity War.
Yeah, it's right up there with me. So, like, I mean, the point is so much writing on it, and I mean, it shows you how hard it is. That's why I give it a little bit of like a bonus scores, because we've seen apparently it's really hard to end a good franchise, and you know, Endgame did it. So, now you can say it's not a true ending. I'm going to ignore that because you're kind of right, but it's okay.
Well, they got to keep
your narrative.
They got to keep feeding phase 2. They couldn't just tie up all the loose ends.
Exactly. So my number 2 is weird because it changed a bunch, and if we were to do this tomorrow instead, it might change again. But I'm going to go with Jojo Rabbit. I really like this movie. So I love Taika Waititi too. I mean, for starters, and it was the perfect. Why I like his movies is a lot of times he'll tackle really cool, interesting, powerful subject matter, but like every scene is interesting because either something visually interesting is happening or hilarious is happening. He has a really good sense of humor, which is pretty obvious by now. And this movie is a great example of that. You're like laughing your ass off in one scene, and then you're witnessing like unfiltered horrors of like the Holocaust in the next. And it's really well done. And for a movie where he plays a pretty humorous take on a version of Hitler, I think that shows his deft hand. There are going to be some people that are like, it has Hitler in it. That's not funny no matter what. And I'm not going to see it. And, you know, okay, fine. Then this movie won't be for you. It's not going to change your mind. But I thought it was a pretty deft touch.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that one. It's one that I have wanted to, but Lord knows the timing would have came out. There were several movies I didn't get a chance to see that I wanted to, including the sequel to Zombieland, a movie I like quite a bit. This was another example of one I'll catch eventually, but I have high hopes for it.
Yeah.
You've given me movies to actually see because I literally had never heard of this movie before.
It's
never
really
even
good.
once.
It's really, really, really good, and the writing's really good. He meets a girl who basically refers to herself, because she's kind of messing with him, as like a monster Jew. Because, you know, coming to face with all of the ridiculous stereotypes he has of Jewish people, like that they're vampires and they suck the Germans' blood and like all this. So it's really good. Really good. Really good. My number 1. The number 2 didn't betray like this internal conflict I have going on, and the number 1 will. I really loved Ford versus Ferrari, and I was not expecting to at all. I just kind of saw it because we're doing this list, and I'm like, well, I've heard good things. I feel like I owe it to this list to go see it. That's what I was going to do with 1917.
But it's impossible.
But anyways, it was so good. It was, I thought it was going to be like boring. It was the most exciting movie on this whole list. And I'm like, you know, it's a movie that includes Endgame and a horror movie. The way that they film the cars is really visceral, and it really puts you in the driver's seat, in a manner of speaking. The performances are really great. The story is surprisingly sort of complicated and really engaging. It's like Rocky with cars. Like it's exactly what I go to the movies for. So yeah, it was.
I feel like car like racing movies like this are the way to make racing interesting, because actually watching racing sometimes can get really dull. But when you can make a narrative around the people and you can get to know the stories, which is probably why some people like racing, like that makes it much more exciting to watch. And you cut out a lot of, you know, the dull parts of the race.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
And then seeing the politics behind it,
Yeah.
and like you said, really engaging with these characters and what's going on in their heads. Plus, when you're watching a race on TV, you're like zoomed out and you're seeing the cars. This is a movie, so you're like in the cockpit or you're next to him, but you're outside of the car and you feel the speed, and so it's so exciting, which you don't get in a normal race.
Yeah, I mean, what works for the Olympics? 15 minutes of vignettes followed by a 10-second 100-meter race. So you get all this background behind who you're supposed to care about in the race and why. The race isn't why you're there.
Yeah.
It's fine sometimes. It has cool moments, but imagine now stretching that out to a 400-lap race where you go in an oval, or even road races sometimes on some of those courses still get a bit monotonous because you're still on the same track. You can juice it up with movie tricks and having advanced cinematography, but at the end of the day, it's about the people.
Well, and it's amazing like what goes into these races. Like I don't think it's converted me on car racing, but he's talking, Christian Bale, about like what the perfect lap. He's telling his son what a perfect lap would entail, and he's like, you're going to go up here, you have to take this turn easy, but then you punch it on the straightaway, you want to like drift around this curve, but he just does the whole race, and he's like, and that's the first 3 minutes. Like one lap is about 3.5 to 4 minutes probably of a 4-hour drive time. So you really respect like the mental fortitude of these drivers. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it helps paint the picture of like, these aren't people who are just driving in a circle. Like there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah. And it's a sport that hides in the margins where everybody can drive 190 miles an hour. The question is who can get that extra little bit out of their car, a little bit out of like the extra gas to avoid a pit stop, all these little factors that really matter in the end.
Yep.
I don't think it did itself any favors coming out on November 15th.
No.
I would love to know why so many movies insist on smashing themselves into that time of year. I get it. The holidays are there. It's the big time of year to go. I'm not saying they should all just put themselves in January when nobody goes. But, boy, the last few years have felt really back-end heavy, and I feel like some people are hurting themselves by doing it.
Well,
weren't all your movies in November? Like, all the movies you picked, weren't they released in November?
A lot of them.
Almost all
now,
of them.
I will say Ford vs. Ferrari did really well in the box office. But, yeah, some of Dr. Sleep, Dead on Arrival. Terminator was like pretty decent actually. Dead on Arrival. There's a lot of like little flops like that. Flops of
Cats.
Well, okay.
Probably Dead on Arrival no matter where it released, but releasing against Star Wars seems like a really terrible choice.
And you just like someone had no clue because they had to withdraw their Oscar bid for Cats because they're like, oh wow, this movie sucks. And it's like, yeah, but you were positioning it to be like Oscar bait.
Yeah, Cats also had a visual enhanced new version of it within the first few days of its release too.
Yeah.
So seems like a lot of things were missed. A lot of things were missed.
That's the only thing you could say is the older actors seem to be having fun with it.
Sure. I'm sure they got paid no matter how the movie did, although they get less based on residuals and stuff. But Dave, rank your 2 movies you saw.
Let's see. Toy Story 4.
Okay.
No, sorry. I'm going to flip the order. Toy Story 4 was number 1, and Star Wars was number 2.
Okay, I was about to say.
Like,
yeah,
very understated listing. One was really good. One was really bad.
Yeah.
That's the 1 and 2.
I didn't get a chance to say much about Toy Story 4 because that was the one that wasn't released in November. That was the one that I saw. The only thing I didn't like about Toy Story 4 was the fact that it came out, basically and ruined what I thought. It didn't ruin it, but it was Toy Story 3 had a perfect ending, like closed the chapter, everything's done. And while Toy Story 4 is a great movie, it's like, oh, but now I don't have this perfect ending that I liked.
But I'll argue that it still maintains the perfect ending. Like they did it in a way that doesn't undo anything that happened.
No.
You know?
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
and that was really nice. Like, you know, if this movie opened and Andy was a piece of shit, he's like a drug dealer now because he doesn't have his toys anymore. Like that ruins everything we knew about it.
Yeah. No, just every time I saw Toy Story 3, it's just one of those like tear-inducing type of like, wow, they nailed this landing of this trilogy. And then Toy Story 4 is out, and it's good. It's a really good movie. They did a really good job with it. The twist of the villain was a little bit, kind of like, oh wow, now I kind of feel bad for this Gabby girl, but overall, yeah.
Yeah, I know they're not going to go into the furnace. I've seen it like 3 times now, so I know they're not actually in danger of being burned to a crisp, but I'm still like, oh my God, they're holding hands. My top 5 isn't all that important. I'm not a film masterpiece watcher. I don't have much of a say on it, but I did see double-digit movies in theaters this year, which has to be a record for me. And my top 5 would probably I think Hobbs and Shaw sneaks into the top 5. By no means a good movie, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, right.
I enjoyed everything on my list. I think Detective Pikachu might be 4th. I'd probably put Frozen 2 3rd. I think Toy Story 4 is 2nd, and Endgame is number 1. It's tough to rate Endgame on its own because it's a payoff of a whole bunch of other movies, which kind of inflates it a bit, but I don't care. I liked it. It was worth the wait.
Yeah.
That's it.
Awesome.
I didn't want to spend time on it. You talked about most of those, and we reviewed almost all of them on this show. I don't think we reviewed Hobbs and Shaw, but
Far From Home was really good too. It just missed my ranking, I would say. And then Captain Marvel came out this year too.
it sure did.
And it was okay. I liked what it stood for more than I actually liked the movie itself, which was fine. It was fine.
I agree. It's a shame the Black Widow movie wasn't first.
Yeah.
I think I would like Captain Marvel more if we already had a Black Widow movie. And maybe Black Widow will be better served by not coming out until later this year. It might end up being the best way to experience that stuff, but it's going to be a little weird because her character's already dead. I know they'll probably work around that, but I don't know. Maybe it would have made her death more impactful in Endgame. Spoiler. Oh no, not Dave. Remember when we listed all the movies Dave should watch and gave him compelling reasons, and then he watched like 2 of them and then gave up?
Yeah.
It's not that I gave
He respects
up.
us a lot.
Disney Plus is going to help this.
This is
watch
true.
more.
This is true. They're all in one place.
Yeah, we'll
Yep.
see.
Very easily accessible. Yes.
Which means you'll have even less of an excuse, and it'll be more of a betrayal to your friends.
Yeah,
Well,
it's so difficult to watch the movies that I own all of.
I'm catching up on a lot of video games lately.
He is. That is true. I don't know if that wipes that all out completely, but that is fair. He's catching up. And some good ones, too. He's actually listening to our recommendations on those.
Yeah.
So, all right, Dave, you win this one.
All right, Chris, you list. I want Shaun to shit all over my list as the last thing the listeners hear.
Okay, I'll do my list. My list is the top 5 video games of 2019. A year I thought was very mediocre overall.
Yeah, it sure was.
Yeah.
It was solid, but I was just telling Maisie this. It was like solid, but with no masterpieces.
Because there's a lot of good games this year, and I have a few honorable mentions I'll mention, a couple dishonorable mentions as is tradition. But when I was looking at my top 5, I'm like, I enjoyed all those. Some of them quite a bit. None of these are like, wow, that's the game I'm going to remember from this year. Like, there's no... I was debating between Mario Odyssey and Persona 5 in a given year. Neither of those games is anywhere close to anything on this list. They're way above anything on this list. So,
both
that's
which
the
I'm
caveat.
playing. I just want to point out.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's playing Odyssey, and we gave him Persona 5, so we'll see him in about May when he finishes that. That's not Dave's fault. That's Persona 5's fault.
I thought of one thing. Sorry, I remembered the other movie that I saw. I saw 3 movies this year.
Wow, I can't wait for this one.
Oh yeah, it's awful. It's actually below Star Wars. It's Lion King. It was terrible.
Oh.
It was god awful.
Yeah, we didn't even mention it. Not a good look.
Great.
So awful.
Shouldn't have
So
happened.
bad. No.
Is it wrong that I saw the trailer for Mulan and I was like, maybe it'll be good?
Please.
The
It
trailer
has
looks
the
cool.
only chance so far. Although now it's like a point of pride that I haven't watched a single live remake yet.
I have.
Just avoid them. Lion King's the only one I've seen, and forget it. It's
I
not
haven't
worth
seen
it.
any of them, and I'm like proud of
Good.
that. But I'm like Mulan, I like a lot.
I watched Beauty and the Beast and I was like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah.
So I can't say I've watched none, but I watched one and I learned from it.
Yeah.
All right, dishonorable mention. Number 1, The Walking Dead, the final season.
That's too bad.
Now, look, on the one hand, we should give it props because it didn't look like it was going to finish at all. It looked like after Telltale went under, they were going to be done with part 2 and then just never finish the last 3 parts. So I guess it's cool that somebody else came along and at least helped them finish. But, yeah, this is another one of those examples where you need somebody to be there from start to finish and not just have a disjointed mess by the end.
Just tell me what happened.
Clementine and her pseudo-son both have their trials and tribulations because people can't be trusted in this world ever, and it's dissatisfying.
Oh, okay. Do they die at the end?
I'll let you figure that out yourself.
Clementine had a son. I only saw part
Not
one,
literally.
Adopted.
Yeah. She basically
Even so-
becomes the lead to his Clementine.
This is over a long period of time then.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's several years, yeah.
Gotcha.
But hey, at least they made it out. I want to point out that I don't think Link's Awakening deserves to be on dishonorable mention, but its price point does. While I think some of it was overblown, I think there's no excuse for that being $60. I think they put in more work than people give it credit for, but like $40 for still just a remake of a game that is about 10 hours? $60 is like...
Yeah. Why?
And I think if they had come out at 40, some people would have been like, oh, it's a little expensive, but it wouldn't have been just this thing. It would have been like, it's a little much, but hey, if you like the game or you never had a chance to play it, pick it up. At 60, I think people have legitimate gripes because that is a huge amount of money for a remake.
Yeah.
And that's all I have for dishonorable mention. My honorable mention includes things like Untitled Goose Game. Phenomenal. Love it. Dave, you have no idea. Just go watch the trailer for it after this. It'll take you like 2 minutes. You'll get the idea. You don't need to play it.
Okay.
Trailer will do the job. No.
Okay.
It's literally called Untitled Goose Game.
All right.
Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition came out. I only had to bring that up because I bitched and moaned about that content not coming to the States for about 15 years, and it finally did. And it was underwhelming.
Oh, you didn't play it? Or you did play it?
I did play it. And what happened was they didn't get the main character's voice actor back.
Oh.
So in some scenes, sometimes in the middle of sscenes, his voice just changes.
Oh.
It's very jarring.
Oh, how do you do that? How do you not just re-record it?
Well, they couldn't get the guy back. They didn't try to from Troy Baker's account. I don't know if you can believe him or not. I don't care to pick a horse in the fight. But the fact remains that literally in some scenes where they had to have the characters address the new characters that were in your party in the remake, it'll be one guy talking and then another guy talking. But it's the same character. You can tell with the other characters, too, because the quality is different. Their voices are different because it's been fucking 15 years. But no more is it obvious than right there with him. And he's the main character. It's bad.
Dang.
Phoenix Wright came out on the Switch. I think it was a nice little port for it. I didn't pick it up, but I looked at some of the UI overhauls and stuff. Great, and it's a new way to play it portably for a new generation of people. Fine. Cold Steel 1 and 2 got remade for the PS4. Nice little upgrades for them if people hadn't played them yet. Super Mario Maker 2 has a whole bunch of interesting additions to its creation suite. Makes for some really fun levels. I've never really gotten into the gameplay, and I don't have time for stage creators anymore, but I think it's an awesome idea. And that's it for honorable mention. Number 5 is Pokemon Sword and Shield. It can be no higher on this list because, quite frankly, the 4 that are above it are both better, and I enjoyed them all more. But the whole Dexit thing we talked about in the review of it, and it was extremely overstated, and I liked it. I liked it more than I've liked most of the last Pokemon games, which is the same boat Shaun was into.
I liked it the most since Gold and Silver. That's a lot for me. That's a long time.
I don't go back quite that far, but it's at least 3 gens for sure.
I was a wee baby when I was playing Gold and Silver. That's a long time to not really dig a Pokemon game until this one.
That's some loyalty right there.
Now, my hope is that they'll build on this and that whatever comes out next, Sword Shield 2 or Diamond and Pearl remakes or whatever, is an even more well-fleshed out game using this graphics and what they've learned and has more Pokemon, but I enjoyed it quite a bit.
It almost felt like this was like a super extended demo, which is I don't mean as like a super bad knock or because I loved it, but I'm hoping to see like a very fleshed out next iteration.
Number 4 is Fire Emblem Three Houses. I can't bring this any higher on the list because in the aftermath of having played it, it's kind of dropped in my consideration. And what I mean by that is like I still enjoyed it. I liked it quite a bit, don't get me wrong, but having let it sit for a couple months, I'm not like, oh, wow, like, yeah, the more I think about that, the more I really enjoyed it. I'm like, yeah, I played that. It was good, maybe really good, but it's not like Awakening where that thing stuck with me for months/years. And it hasn't even been that long. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse, I think. So it has to stay at number 4. I think it's a much better game than Sword Shield. I enjoyed them about the same. So it's number 4. Number 3 is a worse game than Fire Emblem Three Houses. Kingdom Hearts 3. That's right. That came out in 2019, way back in January.
It's weird to think.
Yeah, and did it deliver on all accounts? No. Was it a perfect game? Absolutely not. Does Kyrie fight at all? No! And sure, maybe the DLC is going to fix that here in a couple weeks, but guess what? That doesn't count towards 2019, so...
It barely even counts as the base game. It's been a year.
Yeah, not a great look.
Wow.
That's tough for me.
It's really, like, out of a series that I played, and full disclosure, I lost interest in it. I couldn't keep up with all the outside stuff going on. It took too long from 2 to 3. I mean, Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in, 2006?
That's correct.
Yep.
I mean, that's 13 years. I lost, like, whatever happened in that game was, like, just not there anymore.
Games that get stuck in development hell almost never deliver the way they're supposed to. And on the rare chances they're still actually decent, like a 15 or Kingdom Hearts 3, you can still tell in some ways that they were stuck for a while. Either some of the ideas are outdated, some of the gameplay mechanics, and that was sort of the case here where it's like, look, I still care about all these characters quite a bit, and in some ways more because of the side games, but at the same time, I'm like, this shouldn't have taken 13 years.
Well, no, but like you didn't really see it in the gameplay that much because I feel like the majority of the development happened in the last like few years. It was just I don't know why they did this. They put it on the back burner forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember Kingdom Hearts 2 coming out, liking it, and then thinking like, man, I've got to buy a PS3 so I can play Kingdom Hearts 3 when it comes out. Oops.
It almost missed this generation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're going to get the new consoles next holiday.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's going to be 1 year off from being a PS5 game.
Man, that's insane.
Just gross.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. It was nice to finally have a satisfying conclusion to that, even if it's not 100% the way I might have liked it to go. Some really strong moments in it. Number 2 is a difficult one, and it's the reason I'm putting it here instead of number 1. It's The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3.
Boo.
Cold Steel 2 was in
I'm
my
just kidding.
list a couple of years ago. 3, as people who watch the YouTube channel know, we are still playing. I have not beaten it yet. It'll probably be a 90-hour game. We're like 30 hours in. We just finished Chapter 2, and there's a prologue. So it's really difficult for me to score because I don't know how good the rest of the game is. What I've had so far, I've enjoyed quite a bit. Some of the new changes and upgrades are really good. The graphics look phenomenal compared to the piece of shit PS3 versions we had that were just Vita ports. So, like, everything's really good overall. Soundtrack seems nice. New characters are a really fresh addition. I don't know how it ends. Am I comfortable ranking it number 1? I mean, maybe. I think it might deliver on that, but my number 1 I feel pretty confident in still, so we're going to go at number 2. And that's all I have to say about that one. Shaun will play it eventually when it comes out on the Switch.
I'm in no rush,
Yeah.
but I'll get there.
I remember Tales of this. God, where did I play years ago, Chris? I played one of those Tales games, and it was okay, but didn't hold my interest.
Not even the same series.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. That bad.
Trails,
All right.
not Tails. Yep.
Damn.
That's funny. We should just let that sit for a little bit.
It's Tales of something, but you're right. Trails. Yeah, man, that's how off I am on this. I'm not a Japanese game. I just don't play many of them, unfortunately. So
It's fine.
You'll get Persona 5 in.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what's the number 1 here?
Can anybody guess? What would be my number 1 game of last year?
Please don't say like NBA 2K, whatever.
Nope. Didn't even
Okay.
make my dishonorable mention. At this
Thank
point, it's not
God.
worth talking about. It's a microtransaction nightmare with fun gameplay.
I don't remember.
I don't know
Tetris
what to get.
99.
Oh.
A game I have played.
Yeah, a weird one for a number 1, especially given that I have I have exactly JRPGs in the 2 through 5 spots on this list because I thought American developers did jack shit in 2019.
Fair.
The list is not good, by the way, even though I'm selling a few of them short. It's not good. Tetris 99 is the game I keep going back to. It's great for short snippets, a ton of fun. I don't know what happened with it. The fact that they basically had a trailer of it and released it the same day, and it was just a huge success, is kind of remarkable. To have something go from unheralded to viral hit in the span of like 24 hours is kind of tough to do, considering like every time we turn around, DLC or full-on games or whatever are leaking, trailers are leaking, news gets out. And nobody had a clue about this, and yet, man, they have a DLC for it that you don't need. If you just have online, you can play the main game as much as you want. I paid for it. I've played this game for like 60 hours in total, all in little snippets, but like it's easily my number 1 in a down year for video games.
I paid for it too. My wife loves it. She plays. I came home from the store with our newborn starting to cry and Courtney in the middle of an online game. I was like, okay, you must really like this. All right then. So
you can't stop. There's no pause. You got to keep going, or you're going to die.
Yeah, it's so easily accessible, so awesome. Tetris has been one of my favorite games forever. So having a version this good is amazing.
Okay.
That's all.
I'm going to jump in.
Okay.
I'm really proud of my game list this year because I played everything this year. Everything. There's not a game I didn't play this year except Untitled Goose Game.
Which you can get the gist of by watching.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
And that Trails game that Chris said you're going to play when it comes out on Switch.
I mean, yeah. I played everything. So I'm going to jump into it. My honorable mentions, kind of. They're honorable mentions, but they're kind of like slights because a lot of people had these as like their best game of the year. And they're wrong. They're way wrong. So Death Stranding is my first honorable mention. And it's kind of like fun in its own way. It is not like some EW or someone gave it their game of the year. And I'm like, this is a game where people who don't know a lot about gaming, it's trendy to say it's their favorite game. The gameplay is obnoxious. Dave, it's a constant fetch quest. I'm not kidding. It's fetch quest the game. You get packages that you deliver to people. And that's it. There's very little combat. The stealth function is like weird, not super well done. But my biggest gripe is the story sucks. And people are like, well, that's just Kojima. He's weird. And I'm like, don't fucking talk to me about... I played all Metal Gear Solids. I know what Kojima weird is. This is a whole other level.
This is Kojima unchecked.
This is Kojima unchecked with no plot. And my issue with this and the next game I'm going to say... is like they don't have characters responding to insane situations in a way that I find believable at all. Like the president dies at one point. It's like in the first 5 minutes, so who cares if it's a spoiler? And then like in 2 minutes later, like, come on, we got to go meet the president. And he's like, it's like, but you know she died, so what are they talking about? You don't even say anything. It's bad. It's bad.
But yeah, either you got to meet the new president or...
Yeah, and it's like his sister who's like a ghost, and you're like, oh, okay. All right. But like the things that he's very like cinematic, so it looks great. And the cutscenes are really well done. They're kind of like scary, spooky. So that's interesting. But like I don't need to make Norman Reedus pee in a grenade. I just don't. Mm-hmm. I don't need that.
The same people who thought that was the game of the year, the people who were way, way overly excited about anything being a metaphor in English class.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's actually really deep if you think about it. It's like, no, it's fucking stupid when you don't think about it and when you think about it.
And I read a satirical review of Control that I actually think is correct, and it applies to Death Stranding. This is my second honorable mention. Anyone who tells you that they like Control is lying. The story is impossibly weird and incoherent, but people are afraid to look stupid, so they pretend to understand it. And then I skip forward. All of this strangeness serves as a diversion to distract players from the lackluster gunplay and budget-grade Jedi mind tricks. That's Control. It was, enjoyable. It was fine. The lore was like kind of creative, and when I was done with it, I was like, I'm glad I'm ready to go to the next thing. So. IGN saying it's their game of the year. They're fucking stupid, man. I just can't. I can't anymore.
The description sounds so cool.
Yeah.
Like this, things that the Federal Bureau of Control containing and studying phenomena which violate the laws of reality. That sounds awesome.
No, yeah, and if they did the story well, that would have been really cool. But you have a bunch of characters who like. She gets made the director, and she's like, oh, cool. And everybody's like, hello, director. And you're like, the real director just died. Like, is no one going to address it? I couldn't do it. I can't do characters that I can't relate to. I can't do that anymore. I'm too old.
Get off my lawn.
Jedi Fallen Order was fun.
I would like to play it.
Story was pretty good. Gameplay's pretty fun. It's probably one of the best non-KOTOR Star Wars games ever made, but you can't fast travel, and it bothered the hell out of me. You have these long, intricate levels, and you get all the way in, and then you have to go all the way back out. And like that's a small thing, but it like really annoyed me.
It can't happen in 2019.
No, it took away all the momentum.
It can be optional if you want. Just give players the option to trek all the way back if they want to, kind of like Red Dead 2, where maybe you want to ride along with these scenes, maybe you don't. It can't be mandatory anymore.
It also did what the last Tomb Raider game did, where there are puzzles that are physics based. So like Zelda's great about puzzles that are like binary, like you can do a thing or you can't. This is like, oh, I guess I can't do the thing. But it turns out like you can if you like break the game in the right way. And I'm like, no, I can't do that anymore. So, Jedi Fallen Order. Okay, so we're going to get into my real thing. This is expedited a little bit by Chris's list. Kingdom Hearts 3. Super enjoyed it. I cried at the end. I thought it was very satisfying. Just some of the levels were, not all the levels were made equally.
Hit or miss.
Pirates of the Caribbean, super great. Toy Story, super boring.
Super meh.
Yeah. So that's all there is to say about that. But I loved it. Outer Worlds, really fun. Dave, if there's another game, once we get through this initial recommendation list, I really highly recommend Outer Worlds. Because it's like Fallout when it was good. and Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect all had a baby.
When it was good.
No, come on. Oh, yeah, you know what?
No, I mean, you have to
you're
now.
right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I wish you didn't, but you
Yeah,
do.
They all had a baby, and it's Outer Worlds, where, like, it definitely takes cues from, like, mid, like, 2000s games. You know, you choose the dialogue. It's very, like, story-driven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that and Fallen Order are both on my, like, I'll buy it when it's $20 and play it this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can't comment on them now, but I'll get to them for sure.
It's
Yeah.
really good. The side characters are great. The writing is great, and if this makes sense, the writing is stellar, but the overall plot is pretty weak.
That makes sense.
Like, driving me through the game was my characters and their side quests, but not, like, the main plot.
As a JRPG fan, I understand completely what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, but the level progression, Dave, I really, really enjoyed.
That's good.
After playing a lot of games where they streamline the RPG elements, having a game where you do micromanage these things and these different skills and your perks, I love that. I miss that. Resident Evil 2, it's just the best remake that's probably ever been made. It sets the bar for every remake after it, taking modern sensibilities and fusing it with the spirit and the story of the original game. And it makes me kind of worry that Final Fantasy VII does not really seem to be doing that, but you know, we'll see when it comes out.
Boy, we're going to have to do a review of that.
Yeah, that's going to be really rough when that one comes out, in the sense of, like, well, we got through 35% of the game?
Not even.
Yeah, not even.
Not even that much.
But on the other hand, it's expanding a lot of the beginning area. So, like, that could be cool. We'll see.
Could be, yeah.
It really could be neat, but I'm worried.
Yeah.
That was already a long game as it was. I'm like, if you quadruple its length, are you really going to have enough to hold it together? Maybe. I'm not saying it's impossible.
Fire Emblem is my number 2. I liked it a lot more than Chris. It was not Awakening level, but it was damn close. And I loved the more mature story, the gameplay modifications they made with, like, the Harry Potter, meets Fire Emblem. And I just thought that the progression and the leveling was really addicting.
I think part of it's just I'm less interested in tactical RPGs as I get older.
Yeah.
Which
It's
is
a
my
long
problem.
game.
Yeah.
People are like, I hate this game. It's 100 hours. It's like, okay. I get if you don't have time for 100-hour games anymore. That's not like a fair critique of a game. I'm going to mark this down in the review because it's long. Like, that's stupid.
I'm playing Valkyria Chronicles 4 right now. Love the first one. Think it's one of the most slept on games of all time. Have not been enjoying 4 as much. It's very similar to 1. So it's like, is it just me?
Yeah, right.
Is it me? It could be me. That's not anybody else's fault but mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another pro for Outer Worlds, though. So you can't critique a game for being too long, but you can award another game for not being long. Outer Worlds, like, very concise experience.
Which is fine.
Yeah,
I
it's
actually
great.
appreciate it more now as I have less time. It's the same reason I enjoy Tetris 99.
Yeah.
I don't need to invest an hour and a half to be like, wait, what was I doing last time? What's happening in this world?
Not every game needs to be 60 hours.
No.
Yeah. No.
So,
I like playing some that aren't.
and I say that knowing Fire Emblem was like, probably took me 150 hours.
Yeah.
I loved it, though. So, number 1 game, Sekiro. I was actually sad that the Game Awards stole my thunder, because I was like, ooh, I'm going to have a cool, kitschy Game of the Year. And
Nope.
then they were like, Sekiro, Game of the Year. I was like, fuck. But it's so good.
This is, just so I know, this is the one that really spawned that easy mode controversy, right? Like, not having
Yes.
easy mode on it? Yes.
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 And I'm glad it doesn't, because that game gave me hell. And now Kevin's playing it, and he's having a bitch of a time. And I'm like, yes, feel my pain. So I get it. I get that whole Dark Soul, that whole culture now. I kind of understand, although I'm not, like, mean about it. So maybe I don't totally get it.
Yeah.
But I was just completely immersed in this game. Like, and that doesn't happen a lot. I'm usually pretty good about, like, this is a game that I'm, like, playing, but I was, like, absorbed in the lore, and I think, like, the difficulty is part of that. Like, you have to master the game to get through it, and it involves a certain level of commitment, but it's very rewarding, and the lore is really cool. It's beautiful. And it's some of the most fun I've had playing a game probably ever. So as I'm saying, like, this year didn't have a ton of masterpieces, but it had some really, really good games. Overall, I give the year a 3.5 out of 5.
That sounds about right. Really, like several, maybe dozens of good games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't even talk about Devil May Cry, and that was like really good, but there's no room.
No.
Yeah. I can give you a quick rating of the 2 games that were released in 2019 that I played this year.
No, because you. Oh, okay. They were released in 2019.
Yes, I looked it up. I looked up the second one.
That's fine.
Tetris 99 would be my number one that was released this year because I mean it's amazing. Yeah.
Whoa.
The second one, Yoshi's Crafted World, so fun.
I want to actually play that because I haven't lost faith in the Yoshi games the way I have with Kirby.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Kirby's terrible.
Yeah.
Kirby's terrible.
Yeah.
But Yoshi's Crafted World, so much fun and replayability. Like the levels can be, you can have an easy setting if you want, so it's more accessible to kids. This is kind of the opposite of Sekiro, I guess. But like the levels have challenges to them. They're doable, but they're long, they're fun, and you can go back and replay them the other way around. There's a lot of secrets to find. Like there is a lot you can get from this game. It's unique and fun and cute, which is just a weird way of describing a game like this, but I like it a lot.
It's true to its roots. What do people love about Yoshi's Island besides the platforming and the art style, the red coins and the flowers, the collecting? Mm-hmm. What do people love about the more recent Donkey Kong games? All the stuff that you could do in addition to just completing levels. So like that's the formula they need to stick with. And Kirby's just like, how about we make games for babies?
In the related story, my kids have started playing Kirby,
and that's great. It's just a shame that if they were doing those games and still putting out more traditional Kirby games, I'd be like, great, cool. Get kids in with this nice, fluffy, excitable character, and then you can have a hardcore challenge for people that actually liked him 25 years ago.
Yeah, Kirby kicks ass in Smash Brothers, and you're like, whoa,
what is this?
I wonder what's going on in Kirby's world, and it's like freaking. I don't know, like a children's mobile, like hanging over their cradle. It's terrible.
The Kirby game, you literally throw hearts at enemies to get them to be your friend. Like that's literally what happens in the most recent Kirby game.
Ugh.
Yeah, he's kicking the shit out of demons in Smash Brothers.
Yeah,
he's the only person who survives. Now that's partly a Sakurai decision, but still, all of these heroes that are in this game, and only Kirby is the one who can actually get all of them back.
Yeah, did you know that, Dave?
No, I did not.
Like a big calamity comes and wipes out every Nintendo character, but Kirby gets away on a star.
It's fast. He teleports, kind of.
Makes sense, yeah. And he can fly.
And because he's Sakurai's little baby, but that's still not the point.
All right.
I also forgot about Smash. That came out this year, right? Or was that last year now?
That was last year, because we were playing it at Christmas time.
Holy cow.
I mean, I played a lot of games this year that I could rate and give good ratings on, but they're from previous years, so can't.
Hot damn.
I know.
Well, anyways, cool.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready for TV list?
Well, I think Shaun is. He's probably going to kill you.
Oh, yeah. Well, all right.
That's what he said.
I might not care.
I don't know.
I didn't watch a lot of TV.
Oh. So this is, I guess, what I've probably done the most. It's pretty easy to do. So what is not on my list is Game of Thrones because
it sucked.
I know it does. I partially watched it. I didn't honestly sit down and watch the entire series. My wife did, but I caught bits and pieces. I heard the ending. I was like, even I know that doesn't make sense. And I only heard bits and pieces. So
there's 2 things on TV this year that actively infuriated me. Pretty much every Suns game and Game of Thrones.
Yeah. And I can understand that after just hearing the description of the ending. I'm like, this is so out of character. It makes no sense. I hate this. Yeah.
What if we took our meticulous world building that we cultivated over like 10 years and we just don't do that anymore?
We just vomit out an ending pretty much.
Yeah. Cool. Wow.
Awesome.
I will put number 5, almost grudgingly, but it's still good, as Rick and Morty. That's my number 5. Like, I almost couldn't even include it and just made this a top 4 list, honestly.
Yeah, but that, like, doesn't almost even count. They've had, like, how many episodes this year?
They had 6. No, yeah, 6, I think, this year.
Okay, all right. That just about meets it.
It just about. I mean, and so the first couple episodes I liked a lot, and then, I don't know, something about it seems to lose some of the wit and charm that previous seasons had, and I don't know, maybe this is trying to be reactive to fans and like their expectations and this culture that is surrounding Rick and Morty. I've tried recommending Rick and Morty to my friend Andy and my sister, and both of them just haven't watched it. And I think all the almost negative press that's around it have stopped people from watching it, which is kind of sad because the first 3 seasons were really good, but this one, mediocre, which is sad.
All right. If you don't have Mandalorian, by the way, your list sucks. So just gonna.
Number 4, The Good Place.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Okay, I like The Good Place.
The Good Place is it has really hit such a good point in the show where
If you spoil a single thing,
not
I
saying
will
a thing.
kill you.
No. I
Okay.
have to say I like the characters so much.
Yeah.
Like all of the characters except for Jason. I don't like Jason that much. I understand his importance to the story, but
He's
all
okay.
the other characters are just so lovable. I mean, Chidi's got his own. All of them have their own quirks. And I mean, Janet steals the show most of the time, I think, but they all mesh so well together. It's got a great plot. It actually keeps you on your toes of what's going to happen next. I've tried to predict it and I can't. So that type of show that makes me laugh, keeps me on my toes, fantastic. I'm really a fan of it.
I have never liked Ted Danson as much as I like him in this show.
Not at all.
Like not even close.
You watch him in Cheers and you're like, this is the same guy? This is amazing. He's amazing as Michael. So
he's kind of a douche in Cheers when you really think about it.
Oh, really?
Not to sound super elitist, but it will. Jason, to me, is a character who like appeals to the lowest common denominator.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's his function in the show. It's like, is this joke too highbrow? Don't worry, Jason's gonna say something really stupid
just to get you to understand it. But they still have some really good highbrow jokes too.
So I kind of like Jason, but like it's clear what purpose he serves.
Yeah. He's almost too stupid to be real, if that makes sense.
Hello, Office, and half the characters on that show.
Yeah, which is why you can do it with one character. Anymore, it starts to be diminishing returns.
Yeah.
I will say, I love that the host of Guts is on that show.
Yeah, he is. Mike O'Malley's on there. Yep,
it's weird to be like, oh my god, is that how old I'm getting?
Who's that?
Yeah.
Mike O'Malley. He's the guy who's like the gatekeeper.
Oh yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of other stuff in his career. It's just this is the most recent thing. It's like, oh my god, look how much older he is.
Yeah.
Oh
He's
shit.
bald and,
god.
Yeah, it's weird. All right, number 3 to appease Shaun is The Mandalorian.
Yay! Should be higher.
Have you actually watched it, or did you just put it number 3 based on 0 episodes?
No, I've watched 5 of the 8.
Okay, good.
I've not finished it, but I've watched 5 of the 8. Honestly, my critique would be it's a little slow, but it builds tension really well. The character, the Mandalorian, is a badass, but also seems to care, which I like that kind of juxtaposition of it. It kind of goes into Star Wars world without having to like deal with the fact of some of the complaints we had about the Rise of Skywalker, where it's like, hey, this one person is the only person that matters. It's like there's a lot of people that matter in this world.
Yeah.
And I mean, Baby Yoda. I mean, what else can I say? Baby Yoda is awesome.
Have you seen the prisoner breakout episode yet?
I don't think so. I think that's 6.
Okay, get back to me when you watch that episode, because Bill Burr's in it, and you kind of like him. I feel like.
I've heard his comedy, yeah.
And the finale is.
Yeah. So I've got a couple episodes left to watch, but I have enjoyed it. It's enjoyable to watch, even though it does move a little slowly. But the action's really good for like. It seems like I remember TV shows being these low budget things that they have one set type of thing, and lately there's so many TV shows that have really good budgets and they can really do some amazing things with special effects.
Star Wars is beautiful. A Mandalorian's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
It's
It
awesome.
absolutely is.
Chris, I just want you to know the last episode is directed by Taika Waititi, and it starts with 2 stormtroopers just chatting, and it's the funniest thing.
That sounds like a thing Taika would do. Yes.
He's like, I want to look in the bag, and the guy's like, did you just hear what this guy did to the other person who had disobeyed it? It's really funny. It's great.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's on the list, Shaun. So be happy about that.
okay, number 2, Witcher.
No. Bob's Burgers, still there, still amazing, still such. The opening episode of this season was one of the best Bob's Burgers episodes ever. Somehow they've still got this kind of outlandish situations that are occurring while being still totally believable. It's such a almost heartwarming way, like the fact that this family's so dysfunctional, but they love each other so much, but they still have inner squabbles and stuff like that. It's such a good show, and it makes me laugh all the time. So
that show
it's
gives
still
me anxiety because this family is so poor.
I know.
It bothers me that they like never have a nice break. Almost never. There's almost never anything good that happens to them.
I mean, the Thanksgiving episode this year, like they didn't catch their break. They burnt their turkey, but but on that one they were able to cook the turkey even though the gas went out in the house, but the turkey was actually still really good. So they all actually got to celebrate and enjoy their turkey this year. So the Bob's Burgers is really known for holiday episodes, and this year's Thanksgiving one is really good too.
His restaurant has lost money like every year since opening, though. It's like really sad.
It's really bad. Like he's not a good businessman, which is the problem, and that's kind of almost what makes him relatable. He's just so passionate about burgers, but he's a terrible businessman.
Yeah.
Like he needs a business manager badly.
Okay, so number 1, Witcher.
Why do you have to push this so hard?
Toss a coin to your Witcher.
No, not on the list. Number 1 was the Orville. Up to the
Oh,
stakes
come
for season
on.
1.
No,
Yes.
what? No.
Man,
You
I'm
haven't
so
watched it.
sorry.
Even if
You
you had
haven't
like
watched-
Star Trek, like I heard they're doing cool things with the actual Star Trek show right now,
Mm-mm.
and I
No.
would have been fine with that.
Star Trek Discovery can't hold a candle to the Orville. The Orville this season expanded on the character development that they built in the first season, reeled back a little bit of some of the jokes in it while still being funny, and gave me one of the best 2-part episodes I've ever seen in any show ever. So
That
I
might-
can't.
I'm
It's amazing.
sorry, I'm trying to like run all over your thing. I'm sorry. I was trying to give you credit, saying like that's my. I think as I in my age right now, that's my favorite type of show is like not outright comedy, but like injecting humor into like cool plot lines and like actual dramas.
Yeah, and that's what they did. They use. I mean, Seth MacFarlane deserves a lot of shit for Family Guy because it's garbage now, and it hasn't been great for a long time. But he is a really smart writer in writing good conflict stories. There's an episode of this season, and I'm going to butcher the name, so I've got to look it up to make sure I know exactly what it is. But it's basically the title is "Everything in the World Excepting Fishes," which sounds odd, or sorry, nothing left on Earth excepting fishes, and it's a line from The King and I. And there's one race in the Orville universe called the Krill. There's one called, and the humans that are there hate each other, but the captain, Seth MacFarlane's character, and one of the aliens get stuck on a planet together, and they have actually these two people have a history together, and it's them trying to figure out their differences. It's so well done, just such a good episode of conflict resolution, but still that angst and tension between one another. And then, like I said, the 2-part that was the best was called Identity. So good. I don't even know how much I want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but go watch it. It's good.
What is interesting to me about I think stories in general is having the two people with differences being like forced together is like probably one of the biggest tropes ever. But like if you do it well, it doesn't matter, and it's a trope for a reason. It's because that's really effective if you can nail it.
Exactly. And the whole overarching message of that episode was like, if we keep hating each other, we'll all be dead. And that's basically the line from The King and I, is that if we keep hating each other, there's going to be nothing left in the world except fishes.
Yeah.
In broken English. But it was great.
Cool. No, I've heard really good things about Orville.
It's worth a watch. The first season's a little overly jokey, but still very good. I had it number 5 on my list last year. The second season, like I said, dialed back a little bit of the overt jokes and still was funny and still amazing.
That's my favorite right there. I mean, that's why Taika Waititi is like one of my favorite directors right now. Is like he balances that so well.
Actually, what was amazing in the Orville this season is they had 2 different 2-parters. The season ended with a 2-parter that resolved itself. They didn't have a cliffhanger, mostly because they weren't sure if they were going to get renewed or not, which is severely disappointing to me. Season 3 is going to be on Hulu only, so it's not going to be on Fox anymore, which is, I think, a death sentence for the show, but we'll see.
Have you seen Thor Ragnarok? No, right?
No.
You should watch that one.
Fair.
You should just skip the first 2 Thors. Seriously though, I mean that. And watch.
I heard it was a very funny movie.
That's what I'm saying. But like, still dramatically moving. You know, not like it's not like a farce.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I like it.
All right.
I will say, Witcher though, that song is catchy as hell.
That's a Netflix one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
It's not very good, but it is good.
It should be your number 1,
it's
Dave.
not very good, but it should be my number 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yes, but
Yes.
the sword fighting is like
That's good.
some of the best I think it's ever been committed to screen, especially for TV. And toss a coin to your Witcher is like, I think it won like best song at the Oscars.
I have, I want to say I've heard it, and I can't remember off the top of my head. So
Look it up right now.
Right
It'll be in our
this second.
outro.
But first, Untitled Goose Game.
Oh yeah, I got it. Well, okay, I'll do that off air. But
Then don't look at the Sun score.
I already did.
Oh,
Sorry.
well. So that's it. Our list of the best for 2019. Next
Not
week,
the Suns.
our list of the best for the 2010s.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, it'll take some consideration. We'll obviously not spend as much time on individual entries because we'll have talked about all of them, or almost all of them, over the course of this very show because it started in the end of 2011. So there's very little we didn't actually cover on here.
Holy shit.
Yeah, don't think about that for too long either.
Ugh.
You'll be a sad cry frown man. So that'll be next week, assuming we can make sure Dave's internet still works. We got it working this time without too much difficulty. I don't know what was happening there, but it's okay. Yeah, we all just shrug. So next week, best of the decade. After that, God knows there's some other stuff we could be reviewing, or who knows, Suns cast, if it's even worth it at that point. We're going to 2 Suns games this weekend, so we'll have that to talk about too eventually. If there's anything worth talking about, because if they lose and we set a fire in the parking lot, then we may not want to talk about it.
Or they might not let us back to Suns games.
Well, that's why we're going to do that Sunday. It'd be foolish to do it Friday.
That's true.
Even if they win Sunday, if they've lost Friday, we're still going to set fire to the parking lot.
Got it.
I mean, that's an admission of guilt. Whoops.
We're going to have Maisie be the getaway driver, right?
I don't think that's probably a good idea because she panics easily.
Gotcha. Courtney she panics easily too. So
Right. Well, we've always talked about how Sean's going to be the getaway
There we
driver.
go.
Yeah,
I don't know.
you have a getaway driver right here. I was born for this.
That was when it was in like a natural disaster situation or a zombie situation. I don't know if it's going to work as well when you've caused the very situation that we need to drive away from.
That's
No,
why I'm
it's
gonna pretend to do
fine.
it.
And I've watched Ford versus Ferrari, so I'm extra prepared.
Oh, God.
Oh boy, this is.
I like how
We're
that's your go-to now instead of all the Fast and Furious movies. You've abandoned that franchise now for Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean, I can't take my car driving between skyscrapers, but I can drive on the road.
You're not trying hard enough, Sean.
Should we get those two series to overlap? Should we envelop Ford versus Ferrari into Fast and Furious
the
somehow?
thing is, maybe a little bit, but I don't want Fast and Furious to go back to just being about cars again.
It would be kind of silly at this point as far as they've
Well,
gone.
and it sucked.
Yeah. All right. That's the end of this show. You can find more information on our website, objectionnetwork.com, on social media at Team Objection, on youtube.com/Objection Network. We have videos 7 days a week, including Trials of Cold Steel 3, that thing I was talking about. And finally, you can send emails to the show to objectionnetwork@gmail.com. See you next time.